Dear student, welcome again to the part 4, that is planning and decision making, on the course titled Principles of Management. We will be discussing in the module 19 the extended part of the module 18, that is the decision making process. So in the module 18 so far we have discussed about the concept of the planning and the decision making. We have in-depth knowledge about what are the different steps which are required for the decision making, what is bounded rationality, what is perfect rationality. We have a thorough understanding about the various facets of the decision making process. So let me brief you about the things we have studied so far in this course and how every element or every part are interconnected. In the very first unit, we have tried to understand about the concept of the management. We defined what is management. We have understood about its nature and the concept. We try to understand the different levels of the management, the top level, middle level, and the lower level management. And along with that, we have got an understanding about the skills of the manager. So this part, or the very first part, comprises of the basic concept or the terminology used in the management. Second, we have discussed about from where the term management has been derived. So we largely emphasized our discussion on the evolution of the management, and we have seen three phases of the evolution of the management. Very first one is the classical approach, and within the classical approach we have discussed about the Max Weber principles, or we have an idea about the scientific management principles, the administrative theory. So this comprises of your classical. Neoclassical, we have discussed about the behavioral aspect of the employee, and in the modern we have discussed about the contingency and the system approach. So that ends the part 2, and we got an idea about the concept of the management, how it has evolutionized. In the third, we discussed about the different like theories given by the management thinkers. Okay, and within that we have discussed about the management by objective by Peter Drucker. We discussed about the 5 forces model by Michael Porter. We have an idea about the learning organization by Peter Sinch. Bottom at the pyramid by Professor C.K. Prahlad. So this gives us a basic understanding about how the different school of discipline has different opinion about the management as a wider subject. In the current unit, we are we have started the basic functions of the management. As we know, we have different functions of the management, that is planning, organizing, staffing, directing, and controlling. So unit 4 is the very first phase of the planning of the management, that is planning and decision making. And within the unit 4, we have got an idea about what is planning, what are the features of a sound planning, what are the various steps of the planning, along with the decision making, the different stages, characteristics of the decision making, the types of the decision making. We have understood about the rationality, perfect rationality of the decision making, the bounded rationality of the decision making. Okay, so this is how overall all the things are connected. We got an idea of the management. We have the traces from where the management and the discipline has been evolved. All right, we understood about the different techniques and the approaches by the different management practitioners. Now we proceeded for the planning phase or the functions of the management. So in module 19, we'll be discussing about the barriers to the decision making, management information system and the decision making, difference between the individual and the group decision making, their advantages and disadvantages. So let us understand about the barriers to the decision making. Now, what is decision making? Decision making, in the last module, we have understood the concept of the decision making, and it revolves around how a manager is skillful to identify or understand an in-depth intricacies of the problem of the study. Second, how the manager is able to identify the different alternates in the market. The skill of the manager in evaluating each of the alternate and selecting or taking a decision regarding which alternate will be most suitable for the problem solving. Okay, so this is the domain of our decision making that we have got an idea. Now, what are the different barriers that led a manager to take the decision making, or the decision making become not so impactful? So very first one, as you can see in the slide, the bounded rationality. Now the bounded rationality is with respect to the things we have already understood. We in the last session discussed about the perfect rationality and the bounded rationality. Now the bounded rationality is a situation where the manager is trying to take the perfect rational decision, but because of some external factor or the internal factor, the manager is not able to take the decision. Okay, so what is bounded rationality? So when a manager is taking the decision for the management or the organization, but some factors, what are those factors? Suppose in the last session we have discussed about the example of the supplier. All right, so who is a supplier? Supplier is a person who is providing the raw material to the organization. Now we have taken the situation that the supplier or the different kind of supplier will be giving the quotation. So suppose 5 supplier has given the quotation to supply the raw material. All are at the different quotation price, obviously. So what is the best way to select one of the supplier for the raw material? The one who will be providing the product or the raw material at the low price. So this is the criteria. But because the manager is supposed to take the very rational decision about the supplier who is providing at the raw material at the lowest price, but one of the supplier is familiar with the manager. Okay, or it could be the relatives of the manager. Okay, now even though the fourth supplier in the example is providing the raw material at little higher price. Okay, suppose raw material supplier 1 is providing at rupees 20 per unit, it is 22, it is 24, it is somehow 21, and it is 25. Now what a manager should be doing? The manager should be selecting the supplier who is providing at the lowest price, that is the supplier 1. Okay, but supplier 4 is the relative, and he is emphasizing that the supplier is creating the pressure that you should take the raw material from us. So even though the price is increased by 1 rupees, the manager is taking a decision that we will be taking the raw material from supplier 4 instead of supplier 1. So this is the foundation in the decision making. Okay, other example of the foundation are also there. So I will be suggesting at the last regarding the various books, so you can go through it. Second one is the commitment. Commitment regarding, suppose a manager, let's try to understand with an example. Suppose a manager is purchasing a software. So in this example, we'll be taking the example of the software. Okay, so 2 companies are there, company ABC and XYZ. 2 companies are there who is the manager can take the software from these 2 companies. Now the company ABC and XYZ. Now company XYZ is very top company. and ABC is a new company. So what the manager has taken the decision that they will be going for XYZ company, because the XYZ company is a very old company, as well as the manager expected that the company will be providing at the software will be of very high tech technology being used for the development of the software, as compared to the ABC company, which is new company, and they are very like newcomer in this particular industry. So manager taking a decision that they will be going with XYZ company. Now after some period of time, uh, the employee start complaining that the software is not so beneficial or fruitful, and employees given the suggestion that the software of the new company ABC, it is very relevant with the type of the business that we are doing. Now manager is in dilemma that he cannot revert. There will be two situation. Now two situation will be there, two situation with respect to the manager. One is like go for the XYZ company, or you can continue with the ABC company. Now, since the manager has already invested the money with the XYZ company, the manager may not be going with the ABC company. So that shows the commitment. All right. So once you have committed all your resources, all your efforts towards one decision, and you in the later part of some time period, you find that the alternate is the best way. So this commitment will become the barrier for the manager. So the next one is uncertainty. Uncertainty with respect to like the possible outcomes. Okay, so let us understand with an example. Suppose the manager is launching a new product, and with respect to the promotion of the product, the company is having the two methods. So in this example, we are taking the product promotion, and within the product promotion, two methods are there. One will be your traditional method, another will be your modern method. The manager has to take the decision, like the traditional method of the promotion, like you can take the example of advertising, sales promotion, all right, or it could be your publicity, or your any kind of other methods which are used. So these are the traditional methods. If the manager is taking the modern method, like the use of the social media or use of the artificial intelligence, so it could be like leading towards more reach to the consumers. Okay, because the impact of social media or the digital platform like AI, these will be very impactful, and they will be reaching more consumers. Now at the same time, it could be that the marketers or the manager will not be able to reach out the larger audiences, because the manager is very uncertain. Their manager has no experience of using these kind of promotional tools, the modern tools. However, on the other hand, the traditional method is like well tried, tested method, where the manager is very certain about reaching out to the target audiences, so and so number of target audiences. So the manager has to take the decision that whether the manager should go with the traditional method, where the definite result will be achieved, or go for the modern method, where the result could be like dual result, could be like it could be leading to the increase of the sales as well as the decrease in the sales. Okay, so this is one of the barrier for the decision making as well. Now going with the fourth one, personal biasness. Personal biasness, it means sometimes the manager become very biased about the decision that they are taking, whether in the group or whether the individual decision making. Okay, so when the manager will become biased, one of the situation could be that the manager is taking the decision which is very familiar, all right, or it could be easy to use. Let's take one example again. Suppose manager is purchasing any kind of new machinery or any equipment within the organization. Now the manager has to take the decision regarding which equipment should be purchased, or which brand will be better. But manager has seen that within the company, a brand A brand A is like reliable and tested, and all the employees are aware of how to use the brand A. Okay, as compared to the brand B, where the managers is don't know about the technical know-how or how the functionality, ease of use, these things are like very uncertain. In that situation, the manager will be taking the decision regarding the brand A only as compared to the brand B, because of the personal biasness. Okay, next is a conflict. Sometimes the manager, in order to avoid any conflict within the organization, the manager take the decisions. Okay, understand with an example, like an employee is there, an employee who is at very senior employee within the organization. All right, now the manager is observing that the employee is coming late by 30 minutes all the day. Okay, now because that particular senior employee is coming late within the organization, the other employee, the junior employees, feel that why that employee, senior employee, is coming late and we are coming before time, like 10 minutes or 15 minutes before time. Okay, now the manager, ideally manager should talk to the senior employee and discuss these things, or the manager could like avoid these things to create any kind of conflict within the organization. Okay, again two situations will be there with the manager. So manager ideally should talk to the senior employee regarding that you should come on time, because it is demotivating factor for the other employees as well. All right, so the manager may like in order to avoid the conflict may not discuss this with the senior employee. So this becomes a barrier within the organization itself. Okay, and last one is the time factor. Time factor with respect to the completion of the project. Okay, if the management has given like very short time to take the decision to a manager. Okay, suppose within 3 months you have to decide the market to introduce a new product. Okay, now this time is very much limited for a manager. So manager, what the manager will be doing, manager will be like not evaluating all the different kind of alternatives, or manager will not be giving too much of time to quantitatively or qualitatively analyze the different kind of scenario. And because the time limit is less, so manager will be taking a decision based on the foundation. Okay, so this also becomes the one of the factor for the barriers in the decision making. So I hope that these factors are very much clear about the foundation or the barriers for the decision making. In the next part, we'll be trying to understand one of the very, very important concept, that is the management information system. Okay, so MIS and the decision making and how these things are interrelated. So very first thing is the definition of the MIS. As you can see in the slide, MIS may be defined as a formal system of gathering, processing, storing, and supplying the information needed by manager for taking and implementing effective decision to achieve goals. So 4 elements are very important. One is your gathering, another is your processing, next is your storing and supplying. So 4 elements are important for like taking the key decisions. And the characteristic of the management information system is, very first one is the data collection. Now data collection will give an idea about few questions regarding what data, from whom, how often, who will be collecting the data, and how the data will be collected. So 5 important questions will be like solved under the MIS. What kind of data you will be requiring, whether the data is of the qualitative data or the quantitative data. Okay, qualitative data can be calculated by the behavioral factor of the different groups. Quantitative data can be derived mathematically, statistically through some softwares. Second is from whom you will be collecting data. Whether the data will be collected from the consumer group, the government, your internal employee, or any other stakeholder. How often, like what will be the time period of data collection? Like data collection will be like 3 months, 1 month, 6 months, or any other period. Who will be collecting the data? It is with respect to the use of the software or the employee for the data collection method. And how is the methodology part, like different techniques for data collection we'll be discussing in the next segment. So data collection under the AMIS will be done through software. Okay, it is a integrated system within the organization that accumulate your all the data from the different department and club it together so that any manager can use the data for the purpose of decision making. Second one is the data management. Data management is with respect to your data processing, all right, storage of the data, retrieval of the data, dissemination of the data, and evaluation of the data. Like data processing means how the data will be tabulated, how the data will be analyzed, all right. Again, the storage of the data, like in an organization, like big organization, you will be like collecting the data of 2 different departments. Okay, and day-to-day data, so many, the huge amount of data will be like stored in the different kind of networks. Okay, so how you are storing the data, because once the data, like you lost the data, all the information will be gone. So data storage is also one of the very crucial element under the MIS. Next is the retrieval of the data. Now, how that stored data can be retrieved by the different managers for the purpose of decision making. Dissemination of data, like the way the data are transferred to the different managers, how they will be able to like download the data from the main source, that is the ERP. Okay. Next is the evaluation of the data, like how the data will be like analyzed, the interpretation of the data, different software that it will be used for the analysis part. All right. Third one is the management oriented, like your data which are collected, it should be based on the objective of the company. Okay, and it should be management oriented. Next is the totality or the holistic nature of the data. It means overall every spectrum within the organization, the data will be reflecting. Okay, like it is not like when you are collecting the centralized data, the data from like production department, the sales department, these 2 department is providing the data. Like any activity done at any level, at any department within the organization, data will be stored or transferred towards the main source, and it will be used by all the department. The next one is the planned way, like you plan all the activities so that the data can be put into the main source or at the one place. Okay, so all the department are like working in a planned manner. Next is the common data flow. Common data flow is with respect to the centrality of the data, like all the data will be at one place. Now based on the filtration process, each manager will be taking the data for the purpose of decision making. Suppose a manager at the marketing department want to know that how much amount of raw material available or how much unit of the product is available within the organization. Okay, so that the manager will be taking some key decision with respect to the promotion or hiring some sales personnel. Okay, so the manager will be able to use that data. That is the common data flow. And last one is the flexibility part. Flexibility is with respect to how you are like creating some kind of special macros, so that data can be additionally two data can be clubbed together. Okay, so whatever the data is with the MIS or the your main forum, it should be flexible enough to take the decision in the changed situations. So this was the concept of the MIS and how the MIS is helpful in the decision making. So MIS will give you the information. MIS will give you the information, and those information will be helpful for your decision making. So we get an idea about the different features and the characteristics. Objective of the MIS, the right information. The very first one, that all the data which are stored in the main ERP, so those data will be providing you the right information. Right time, the data should be used by the manager when it is required for the decision making process. Once the decisions are taken and then at that time data is not available, then the data is of no use. Okay, so it should be available at the right time as well. Next is the data form. Data form is with respect to data may be at the raw data, or data may be put into the some categories or specification of the data. So MIS will give you an idea about the access about the different variety of the data. The way the manager want to use it, the ERP or the MIS will be is so flexible that data can be used as per the specification of the manager. Right cost as well, MIS is a system where the information can be stored, and those data will be very helpful for decision making. And the MIS system is very costly sometimes, but it is something which it is called as a capital expenditure. Once you have used it, or when you are using it, it will be giving you the return for a longer period of time. Updated with respect to time and again the software get updated from the different source of the data. Every department will be updating the different day-to-day activities within your MIS. So day-to-day activity will be updated within the software. And last one is the secured. Since it is a software, and the security part of the MIS is very high. Okay, one cannot manipulate the data, or data is secured for a longer period of time. So these were the objective of the data. Advantages is the availability of the data. Manager will be having lots of data for taking any kind of key decision. Better access of data, accessibility is one of the key factor. Data from the different department will be available at one point of time. Speed and accuracy, the moment you click it through the software, all the data will be shown to the manager for purpose of key decision making. Security, we have already discussed that data will be very much secured within the ERP. Secrecy of the data is with respect to, suppose any company is in some doing some project very in a confidential way, but the manager are accessing the data. So the secrecy of the data should be maintained. And flexibility of use is with respect to how the managers are clubbing the different departments data together for the purpose of using it. Next one is the limitation of the data, or the limitation of the MIS. This talks about the very first one is the qualitative data only, or quantitative data only. There is no qualitative data available at the MIS. Qualitative data is with respect to understanding the behavioral part of the employee. Okay, these things are also very important for the purpose of decision making. Okay, sentiment of the consumers, attitude, behavior, these data will not be available to the manager through the MIS. Okay, so this is one of the limitation. Quality of data, so this talks about the input output ratio. So how you put the input, the MIS, the output will be likewise. So when you put the garbage in, the garbage out will be there. So it totally depends upon the quality of the input. Okay, cost is high. in the MIS or the installation of the software of the MIS, the software cost is too much high. So small companies may not be able to like use the MIS data for the purpose of decision making. Right cost, it means sometimes the use of the MIS software may not justify the cost it comes. Okay, if it is not appropriately used, like if you are if you have installed the software MIS, but at the same time the input data is not so good, so there is no relevance of like using the MIS. Rapid change, because of the change in the external factors, the software does not like give you the ready-made decision towards the updated information because of the change in the external factors. So this also becomes one of the limitation. And the last one, only add to the decision, like it is something which a manager is using for the decision purposes, so it supplements the decision. This software will not give you a decision by itself. So proper judgment by the manager will be required all the time when they will be using the software. So these were the limitation of the MIS. Now talking about the individual and the group decision making. Individual decisions are made by one person. So sometimes within the organization, if any kind of activity of like not so broad activity being conducted by the manager, suppose payment of wages or decision regarding the supplier, okay, so the manager can handle these kind of decision by themselves. But sometimes the decisions are very complex. Okay, suppose you are planning to introduce a new product in the market, so different spectrum of the decision need to be taken, and it should not be done by only one individual, or like the experience of all the individuals should come together for the purpose of decision making. So this is the group decision making. So this was the basic point of difference between the individual versus group decision making, and it depends upon the complexity of the overall operation. If the overall operation is very simple and routine type of decision making or routine type of activities are there, individual decision making will be taken. Whereas suppose you are taking the decision which is of capital nature, you are purchasing a very high end machinery, so it should be based on the group decision making. So this is the point of difference. And lastly will be like briefly discussed about the advantages and disadvantages of the group decision making. Very first advantage is that more information and knowledge, so more and more people will be there in the decision making, so experiences or the observation from the all level of the employee will be reflected. Second is greater number of alternatives will be assessed, and it can be based on the variety of opinion and more thorough probing of the facts. Next is the participation in the decision making increases, and because of which the acceptance of all the employees will be there. Next is the people understand the decision better, like the more and more people will be there, more and more probing will be there, more and more questions will be asked, that ultimately refine your decision making. Interaction within the individual help in improving the teamwork. So when you are working in a group or working in a individual as an employee, there will be you start feeling boredom when you will be taking the decision in the individual level. Whereas when you are working with the group, the chances is that your decision making or your performance within the group will be enhanced. And one of the limitation is one man control reduced as the authority is shared. So individual person will be taking the decision based on his her or her own will. Okay, whereas in the group the decision making is shared. Disadvantages, time factor is one of the problem, like when you are taking the opinion of all the employees, time will be wasted. Group exert pressure on the members to comply and reach on the agreement on the least objectionable options. Okay, sometimes too much of decision making by the group members will create clutter, and at the end you will not be able to take a concrete decision making because the opinion are very much different. Okay, so it may create sometimes a limitation for the manager when they are taking the decision in the group. Group dominance by few prominent and influential member. Suppose in the group of 10 people, 2 members are very much influential, okay, or at the very high post. So whatever the illogical things that they are saying, the group may not be able to create a disagreement because they are at the very senior position. Okay, so this also create a barrier. May be costlier than the individual decision making. Sometimes you hire some expert or you call up all the employee. Okay, so this ultimately increases the cost. Tendency to shift responsibility or avoid action or collaboration. In the group decision making, it may be that you will not be able to reconcile all opinions together. Okay, and it may create a problem for the identified problem, or it may be very difficult for the manager to reconcile or summarize everyone's opinion while they are taking a decision. And last one is the conflict and hatred may arise among the group members due to the varied opinion. So sometimes the managers, if you are taking the decisions and your opinion does not matter, in that situation you may create or you may feel bad, so that create a disagreement or conflict within the organization. So that's all for the session. In this session we have thoroughly discussed the controlling your decision making part, and we try to understand about what are the barriers in the decision making. We have understood about the concept about the MIS, individual and the group decision making, and lastly the advantages and disadvantages of the group decision making. And these are some of the selected books. You can go through it. This will give you an idea about the different component about the decision making. So that's all for this session. In the upcoming session we'll be discussing the part 5, and in the part 5 we will be getting an insight about the second management function, that is the organizing. That's all. Thank you.